Hello, I'm Ben Freund, and I'm one of the resident artists at the Baltimore Clayworks. I'm a sculptor and potter there. So today I'll be throwing one of my little whiskey cups. When I first started throwing these, I was just doing a little bit of subtle altering on them, and I found that the more I threw them, the more altering I did. So they've kind of been an evolution, and they probably still kind of are. As you see, I like to use a darker stoneware, and these will usually be wood-fired, wood soda, as a matter of fact. There I am doing a little pull. I left quite a bit of clay on the bottom, so I can make a nice foot. You see I can press my rim, but it's kind of superfluous because the rims will be cut off. But it's a habit I got into, and it's a good habit, so. Another little pull. Really enjoy making these cups. They're actually quite thin and delicate, and they warp a little bit sometimes in the wood firing, but I think it's in a good way. At least I think so. So I have good days throwing these and bad days throwing these. I do have quite a bit of loss in the altering process. On a good day, I'll lose 1 in 5. On a bad day, it's more like 50%. Get rid of my throwing marks. And I'm about to cut off the rim here. I do it at this stage because it's strong enough to handle it. If I did it more towards the end, the cup would collapse. But if I do it now, then I can compress the rim after I cut it and smooth out that rim, and it's strong enough to handle it. The other thing is, as I go on, the alteration in the rim will become more subtle. Just smooth it out, and I always get some warping when this happens, and that's fine. Just so long as I have a nice smooth compressed rim. Fix that warping a little bit. Now I'm going to cut off my bottom. It's just a needle tool. I use my finger to mark how deep I want to go. Make a little cut. I've looked at my bottom before this, so I know where to cut and the angle to cut at. That's just a dental tool. If you do this, make sure you're going in the direction that the wheel is spinning. Go in and then rotate slowly until you hit the wheel head, and let it go around a few times once you do that. Cut it off and pull it off. Now sometimes these come off nice and clean, and sometimes they don't. Either way is fine. I just go back with the tool and clean it up. I can also cut further in with that tool if I want at this point, or make my floor thinner, but I like to get everything cleaned up for the next stage. I'm getting the inside of my floor nice and wet. And same with the outside. nice and wet. And this will actually be a pull. I'm actually doing a pull on the floor of the cup and pulling out, and you can see it come out. Sometimes they're more dramatic than others, depending on how thick I've left the walls and how thick I've left the floor, and they usually warp a little bit in this process. And I can't, for some reason, always pull exactly horizontally, but they always end up quite thin. I'll dry out my bottom a little bit. When I first started doing this, most of the floors would collapse after this. So we used the blowtorch a little bit to dry out the floor, both inside and out. Give it a little strength, give it a lot of strength really, so that it can survive the next part. Otherwise, they just slump. They slump right over. Don't let your bat on fire. I've done that. Look at all that steam. Re-wet my bat. Now I'm just checking everything out, seeing how thick the floor is, doing a little shaping, maybe pulling out the wall just a little bit on the bottom. And I'm compressing my bottom, bringing it back down to where I want it to be, making sure the angle on the inside is good. I also got rid of my throwing marks on the floor. I'll do a little general shaping and general smoothing at this point. The altering process is probably my favorite process, and I take my time doing it. Partially, I think, because I like doing it so much, but there's some excitement to it, because you never know if you're going to lose the cup, and you never know what you're going to end up with. So every time I do an alteration, maybe especially a big one, I come and I readdress my rim. I want that rim to still be round, at least if you look at it from the top, when I'm done. So I have to keep readdressing it and bringing it back to round. The other thing that I'll do is I'll hold onto that rim, especially if after I've made some alterations in the sides. I'll hold onto that rim so I get a little bit of buckling, a little bit of warping, torquing. I've heard it called all sorts of things. And I always just kind of make this up as I go. So every cup is different. Sometimes it's a lot more dramatic than this. And some of my favorites are the ones that buckle to the point of almost being lost, just a hair's breadth away from being lost. So there I am readdressing that rim. And I'm actually pushing down to get more buckling. And you can see how much more it buckled there. Seeing it from this angle, I think I would do more to it than I did. I don't know. I'm drying it out because I want to readdress that rim a little more. I want to give it a little flare. But I think the pot was just about to start collapsing, maybe. Didn't have the strength. Sometimes I need to blowtorch the whole thing, sometimes I don't. I kind of feel like blowtorching is bad because one of my teachers at one point did. A long time ago, but I used the blowtorch, whatever. I'm going to come back to that rim and I'm going to flare it out a little bit, and the difference may be subtle. We'll see, but it's one that I see and I notice and I like, so I make sure it's there. And there you go. That's the cup. I really like that buckle right towards the top. That kind of fold. Yeah, I think I want to alter it more if I were to do it again. But every cup is different. Let's see how I did. Not bad. Sometimes the corners are a little thick on the floor, but that one's pretty good.